Susray bedul maraklay marbugul belaw ilung ibiraklay marmasil belaw President Paules marugul senators Speaker Kanay marugul delegates Governor Paloy marugul governors Speaker Thomas Telay marugul Jefferson Telay marugul speakers diregal Chief Justice ngiraya gilaw marugul justices marbek other belaw ngara ablurang ayang almora hocharigi mangar alsela ablur bel krela ablur bel alsils diriga mal soal mutel teal malmo recognize ra romongia del alto tom romongia da vice president oilo minister Olgril minister Victor minister Obiang minister Tmutul minister Aitaro special advisor Chengin sama director Igeda, my chief of staff. Full cabinet. Aquí diría el mal, mutel teal, meren azul la media, meren azul la Miss Sunyama, Miss Klaima, Miss Ringil, nos il giorno che del tutto. Kita otrule, meren azul la rubakal Dios. Rogul tangat el merabalwada ma tele del kida adre belaw sulang e pastor nos emel lo mugedra al total o other sidre al total akka legre lo mura press conference al total ase como odora di clara badinga de leng laria sapinal menang eli de clock o seguire el mo apira gort no mamar makes sense was yesterday at 3 o'clock mang di Sel Sapina it was ridiculous. Lengle require first of all require a president, a minister of justice, a minister Victor, a minister of state mo apira court and witness ra osisir toy. But anyway, so dimnar sige unreasonable. And then require a rogul document from gela program rigger a rogul other government. Everybody in the government is my subordinate in the last year. And to be produced by 9 o'clock this morning, really, when you give us the subpoena at 3 o'clock. But anyway, kita urerela ngele Mr. Kennedy. Because Mlamkodoril Senator Kennedy, same guy. Anyway, waste out the republic, waste at temir arbekla, maradama marakasusam asangal mlusra a response mo lo say it's unreasonable. So just to give you a excerpt from the court order related to Talmlara Ngagi de Judge Hoffman was a order granting motion to quash. So it's good to know lo sing area justice at Telbulu. Tigingela Namwada yel sapina mande kablugul the court the legal issue they're arguing it over in the court necessary the both so Ayel evidence it has nothing to do with agreement and the arguments that are there. But anyway, to me, harassment, but that's just Kennedy and the way he operates. So, tingil amrigel say, I'm the tingil judge, say, these communications demanded from the president or his subordinate, which appear to contemplate most of the executive branch. That means they're requiring the whole executive branch. That is facially overboard. Ali, tora tia malimis. Actually, ang abayir the sanctionary. Abayir mo tutak la James raklabulun sa pinalili. So, although tirak ra alula korte tamlek quasher sige el requesting il sa penal because it was unreasonable. Timelines are unreasonable. Direct undue burden. So, anyway. Asel, kita part tiang, kita mena se, ngalom do dri olbira glulaw. Kita mena se ngada kalingel, ngi olbira glulaw Senate tamla 2 kilo aseng ngomtera Senate. Di, of course, ang taxpayer, kita taxpayer sa rablur bela hara oring ngorto takrigi de create a mondal unnecessary. So, ngirat focus sa issue, dekal giral. Di, he knows what he sell kam ngati akor to create more work. more money we have to pay. So, anyway, kami ko mamdang Vice President tagadala lo sa kumumdo sa urior. Diri kaligya dron ba sa sel dorol tigara nga eunget. Ela kadri tiro no lom kudo dergit o sanga wala man dergit. Ay to korbelo sa ngomon nga mal omon dera senet di be. Se decision ada senet sorry lom ititire mo omon derti. Hindi ko kasi, tigil mo hadarin, tiladiri kal hararin. Sila. Okay. Di, kada, di mo blakatak la. Kita, tiyal tukura tisien, tigita daw sa hadarin, rajun al merela. Diri ka tal from that time, al merela, di ka tal time, damar tangidil information, and more olbira kalulaw, mar other olbira kalulaw. In fact, nga tamla welcome, tira rogul meeting. Ito ba imlu sa mga a meeting ang soma mata kal soma lekori el mulu sa melo sa the call leadership meeting mga call leadership meeting ito sa hindi kal soma lekor tilal meeting hindi mo ta sa mela kad marakort but anyway we'll go with the process and so the court ngungir ra James Kennedy hindi ada kal sa lungir other belal di mo ita how do the court hindi kal mal to cover other court di masangara de ka anyway
President,
okay.
if I may, ako tingin dal sa yang press conference. Madilungil poradi kalgibal makataklim bol blakatak sa president ang agumdaso kami ra media komlam larmeng sa adire kal natto tra simbong au kay marwa Facebook hindi diallo sa otro president ngarnya losut lamorngi la file ra agargri ra balur belaw. Et yang au tutaklela playera Senate olbira kululaw loban three are individual citizens rabalur belaw tata imong taterong citizen rabalur belaw lol tutak ra national government of course a president ra republic at ngakal surangal whip sangay gidi ang lelom teraklol am trabalur belaw matyalak alwi detamle file ni sara Friday last week why say Esay gidi alosaw nga president talwaseng wal ngarngi sel ahiring kirel at TRO malubeng temporary restraining order ngarngi el al tutaw mga legal ragri el al time hindi obengel se ngay gidal adralla ra senate tamle sa pinara president tamtir gidal minister sergi el wal giril modum ra court el al tutaw wala ba igigil batok document talgiril mo submit ra madala court and di say gidang kagita president tamlaw ay salwa say ngok ngarngiar adralla lomterngi emle file ay gilgok pabilingir el mora court talwa say lomawata igigil sapina alwa say more than some diakal necessary o mang say gidi court tal explainer niya president talwasen tilobat sel order al tutaw alwase mlakwas malubeng mlamakawata igigidal sa pina almera president mar ministers so while agay sal amalmol mar al tutaw and then diakal necessary a president mar ministers al modum sel garagri letyal gay sa basically it's all about mostly legal issues. Mandiaklo spera presence ra president, mar ministers ngil momsaw da akmong rar sa case. So sa igidial lal address niya president. So you may continue with presidente.
Sula, wal tablol. Ibabi ra ko tamlani sa tutak on Friday. Di eli redaklo katam la server sapina. Sel sapina say hablado. The questioning is el request ra TRO amal mon. Yeah. Okay. Sulang ya, Vice. Maria tablo executive order bod san el tutaw. Selgota executive order number 498. Tiang sel mo establish the working group الجدا مطمئن أورال جيرة للتغورة مكيت الغرق السلة بلور بيلا سرا leadership meeting جدا بايس سرا دعارة أمايو ملأوليت أنتلا vice speaker delegate بوليبرت بلور أمايو مالوليت رواسي ماذا establish a working group المو سيد المطمئن address tial otutela mkit regar el sera blur belau le tia do ngel waseng ndigal dil Ministry of Justice agirel involved ni girel blur bela involved ni rogin magada modal tial working group of course Ministry of Justice, Minister of Health, Vice President, kada Ministry of Education, First Lady, Chief of Staff, ida monitra tara adra House, tara adra Senate, tara omtera governors, ma speakers, ma masil belaw, marubugul belaw. En modal tial working group kada urir lord alak, autrulel ma uspel. Makita ka sa blue belaw. So, hindi nila baksa say. Dim smile, Minister of Justice, como Chief of Staff, Minister of Health, Adam. Okay. 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 Kung ititigil na custom immigration, malmi. Kita amdingin wase tara albanglia da baby rata me ngari adan mesoi sur belau el ngari baby rablu me el tirame kadamo masangartir mang ya kadamo moral wase through executive order 499 etiang mo rulil wase ngire ngari atreta el dog yungil ngari gel baby rablu do dingil wase tme tiya da gel bula momring kita ol duro kortil mormeleng dia kau dudir to kay del issue tir mang tiang amo require a visa malu en pre clearance en mori gagi del bulu mlani amiru ra el executive 274 el relia present Toribio el walblel lo li tegid el dasura sengara el bulu abod exclude din dim la kalsal bla takla mang baby rata me tigada mas askogi to asen dekat ilme acto espera one example koram lo tergibel el makitang United adil mas sa Africa mangal ambassador sa South Africa lo dekal ngas askogi emlegir el merbelau for everyone guarding a building a education ile of course Africa kaya imol blur Africa anyway so kadam lam taklil waseng ngaraigel bulu matibok list agel bulu agoteng Bangladesh, Cambodia, Cameroon, Ghana, Haiti, Iran, Myanmar, Nigeria, North Korea, Saint Kitts and Nevis, Sri Lanka, Vanuatu. Now, I tere kal stober til merbelaw. Hindi a process kasi either the government belam la kong til me or to visa, like they have a work visa mera blue bela. Mang they help pergi dem model me adel el bolsta karte bola kal sedel endelerin. Okay? So hopefully tiang chief ma director te help pergi lo kati lula rail mo beote Dekal sa klaro sa kami airline misunderstanding. I think sige da pro to tell egal airline hotel bring la lul al sumo dekal hotel clisel soad yang ari final mortin marklo. Sentela 10,000 per passenger mo. Matamal gargik maulan mal sorry al blatak. Sulang. Okay. Okay. Iwais was Rodrigo never returned last week after a press conference ng mga tele del mora nagagi dele nauru ma aru imlesto bra aru kol tribal mesa presenter FSM course kada neutel msader tial upcoming Pacific Island Forum ديريغ كذا منو تيجي السموديس الوكو أنتي لابلور بيلاو المهوسة سيل دوم قدرنا سين بري كاب a pre-cup sel memud la ablurada before the regular cup ya sel mle telbi la mangela turgim Australia o sea a pre-cup a morir a Pacific ya tingel Australia se indigamil adra egal islands a this side of course ablura Fiji او تبدي سل رungule lo asetira sorin mohost مجيدا او كل تيرا قرسل وكل داس lo ase يدا صادرولي تيال البري كاب المو قد ريزرين مو غرا كلو امباكترين قدون غاسا سي على بير بيلاو البول بارترا بول دليا بي اي اف ني بولو جيولا بي اي اف ديلنار بيلاو التريال مريد ريال بلو اوريدي تنار بيلاو موال اليفيتر تيال بري كاب المو ليدرز meeting instead of just ministers or وان سيغا سيا عملي انتيد من hopefully el alsil singa ma prime minister a Fiji amo adadu wase what's the best path forward sel do marania wase kado sigir sel gotrungil el girel tial el taiheyo agal blue regal Pacific mang ang kado mesagel tial wase magarange we can get the most participation at the highest level and how do we achieve that el ngusel tingin del كده عم دايسين بتوقع climate change and دي كده بس as a Pacific we have a united voice when it comes to climate change is كده التينيات أجري الرولة مرة Turkey ما كده نوسيد المترا president semana أوليتا support تريه ديري قال مرة ناورو ما attend the Independence Day celebration or ناورو وك مترا president ناورو ديري قال أوليتا عنه سوري and of course show our support in the region mga congratulate an Aurora independence certir 58 independence and we look forward to them coming in at PIF diregal mal madingel wase agal magigare yun sa blona Aurora dimla ko din se تريا مال نمرين لقلنا رتيرا ومرول المقامات سو ترى لوروريا تيلا درارو عملو مو سيلبريت رم تيري رسرا ومرول المقامات تيلا درنا نورو مين غال مورا أروق in fact ملانيا ديال المورا أدرا أروق الملاء بيدس الدي ملارا بكولا نورو تموسيل وريا أدرا الشابل مغرانيا مكيت الهيستوري سيجدا this was a kind of a celebration or لو بتطير عذرا وكا مريضرا FSM المون نمنا قصي المو president and the trial وكا نول celebrate رو بنطير or relive our history and move forward from that. على تدا يجل كيت past and that's the reality that we have and hopefully we don't ever repeat those things in the past. دريغل لكلو تام مرسم غدول مايسه باي chief of staff minister mo dalo sa igele betogole what do you call them pinnacles no igel blira atigel uklola artira adra na oru refugee camp ngari ada no class trigal mere bela mal diwa tigel mona na oru well tigel mona na oru atrige masimer offense o geita igel balbol sisbri tigel mere bela de always it's totally different but anyway ngaria ngal minister na oro akerde ngase a president kamal diwai ga mamma no tilal with the news tilal degal como da imai ga biu ndi you know what was interesting was for them it was huge business at one point they had 1500 teladel the same processing center trigelada morsei te mesa background tile if you know in the past trigang radial el mera Australia mo problem tiga mal no boto but the center team Australia the processor tira to Mr. Mo Australian that was the proposition it was a deterrent to reduce our other Mosois for Australia and then in 2009 or some 2007 the stopping and then later en lemut el tial waiver other Mosois for Australia mal mo boto matlmut implement tira 2013 So another loader said, I get operation say 1,000 a lot. It's a big part of their economy. Aula anaro economy niya amla actually hindi bialaw anaro ang erong GDP partly because of all those activities. In fact, angel tarangele male kintangklel adale mul saudri ngaringal wanara abuigel mebuiga Rashid gabuiga Burma and mlorse mang part territorial mlara processing al top de tigas after all mlara processing te trim te meuro rablu isi nga rablu lo uro nga bay mlar sel top de la construction company mngatara mal mlemay gerngi say elang o kombali New Zealand ngora di example ra what happened and gagid Rashid nge adra Burma Cambodia Burma Myanmar. So anyway, I know you hear a lot of bad things about it. Hindi pong that actually all positive. It helped their economy. Ngari adal mlekye help para ablurir ma. Nge tilob na titira roster adal uror. I mean tigal marsen mo adra construction nge help til. El lam kodor ablay mga repair ablay sel belum. So interesting story. Dirigal no say the message they're working hard. Mini games at 2028, I think January. Hopefully they'll be ready. Tamla break ground them rule legal facilities it so. Gira del black armo del order baisil gira la games mo kada mo malap to kol tele kita da bran aro dil la barro la gatelle. Anyway, the nombre garse mnoria tele del merbela and then we went to Dubai, Marcel World Government Summit. Se gidam no muda dul mlet tablo o part sergid mlet kadam no dul sel tora sustainable tourism madri gal girela water resources and resilience gumra lo sa blur bela especially when it comes to Palau pledge is well known around the world that how we invite visitors but we want them to be responsible, and when it comes to water resources kada protect our watershed we know the value among. They like to use us as an example. Ukmo share igel uk doru rablur belaw. Din dire kamna ni atela dru correct sagel potokol lulsadar other say. I think the biggest one lulsadar niya tokor wa AI, how it's going to change us and what it can do. One of the things that was very interesting to me tamsada arm no segel arm ngari language ri diwai gidar Loyal language gidar ada this issue. Apparently, even though gagarusel to in this when you do a 3D mapping of it with AI, the language patterns are all the same. And each animal has its own language pattern. Mela tanam dingel say for example ngal crow ngal arm nge ko adar gel arm crow gemal melom sa arm nge gong name marang gel ngal ngari anklel. Ngayon Gujira, of course, I got all the thing. Other truck in there, so they're in time they'll be able to unlock the languages. So mnamo sa del los pera ay mga dadu ay alarm, which is interesting basto. Diregal, you know, uko mura Biblia maula. One of the things basto dilia tamlangwa DNA. One of ancient wolf. And we'll make cloning. I tell movie Jurassic Park already temruri. Emla tov den gege the Mera tulmel trail wolves. The ancient wolves amla amori and they're healthy. The regal teramosadara seluk idea artilo say. So they had all kinds of scientists. I mean, these are Nobel laureates, well-known scientists. Companies that the UAE is investing in. So one of them was Tial El Gombali their tamla sequence ra DNA matanam de sing ngaral genes sa uli kadamran mo uwol. Ngia igel genes el kosa carcinoma, masugal, Alzheimer's. Does ngani 3 if they can target it extend the life for up to 150 years to kasi tia. Tadi push tel line. I mean, kada orang se masar mo igal a conversation. But it's, akto kabitara Prime Minister a PNG kasi President. Nga kaulak meragal meeting and he goes to the Davos. Kasi because we have to open our mind. Kita dito ng artika da maldi el simmer. Hindi ka makmura ka kasi it's amazing the technology where the world is going, and we need, as leaders, we need to be prepared. And then, of course, at the mo energy. So one of the foundations of AI, technology, is you need energy, utilities, cheap energy. Mangkal lulba lang arsen mga dua professor at Stanford, Nobel laureate physicist, Nobel laureate ra 1997. Nga Dr. Chai, nga emle Secretary of Energy ra under Obama. Ikpulo kasi one of the things that you politicians need to do, put more scientists in your cabinet. Mong si Mudengel wase sen mosada to ko komran mosada. Kasi Victor, maula kang ra cabinet ta scientist, this na one scientist tergir. Okay. That's how you can make good decisions. Nga ukle Secretary of Energy mangam na masada say the masada renewables, which are great. Hindi ngam na masada say the cost of transitioning to renewables is going to cost 132 trillion. Nga omes rabulado rogi. And then ang masada gel material sil dospel girela solar ma batteri. En mulo ase. In reality, selbo modonle ase. Hindi kal enough mineral sa rablul af remula batteri ma solar rege rogul dos pera el alta. It's impossible. And mo say it's a bad word. People think it's bad. The namo time the help government explain rather say nuclear is a safe option. For power plants, they're fantastic. UAE, Agimar said, they just opened their 6 gigawatts. That's 6,000 megawatts of power. Nuclear, ali tiga produce oil mrula nuclear power plant. China is probably the most efficient in building them, and we have to change our concepts. SMR, for example, aircraft carrier, submarines. The technology is already there, so it's something that we have to think about as countries, study and be open to discussing, because the energy requirements are growing. It means we're burning more oil and more coal. That's the reality. So, closing Deputy Prime Minister. His name is Saif. Brother and President of UAE. I happened to talk to him. Same. Lingamlo share a story ra UAE ma their advancement era yagidele AI. Mga sa story tiral. I say this is how far we've gone. I want a transistor chip and not a radio. The chip the klungel has 1 billion of those. Elang ngal kloa 4 billion transistors ang alset one chip. Say that's the power of computing, how far it's advanced. Tiladra UAE are building AI centers. Mulo example their journey, making sure they have energy resilience. So renewable energies, they're building the biggest solar fields and battery storage, the biggest nuclear plants for the size of their population. In perspective, and that's the foundation on an AI future. You have to have stable, clean, good energy. And then he gave the example of AI project tertil dirgulmul. Algo sera May at Trump vice. Algo mlorsen mo visit. Matasana gel ko apto agreement tram gela UAE. At June ali May at tasan at June they break ground the construction of SLAI, largest AI center in the world. elal February etiam na top dra utem la mora adwelem na. I mean, they're going to be opening soon. That's how fast they have to adapt to stay ahead. In fact, ito kasi ang Mrigel, Sina, our own AI, AI next. Alam ko, Europe didn't think about AI, think about Larmid. That's, and cell AI center nila, the first one that's going to be complete is 200 megawatts. So they measure them in the amount of power they need. But when they're all done, it will be the biggest in the Sigidal area. The cell computing powering, they measure it in terms of, they call it tokens. So Ablulav, algo the Swir Arbek Lad Arbek Silsil process produces 3 trillion tokens. Siya kung value ra igal. The TL1 AI center that they're going to produce in UAE will produce 1 trillion tokens. So that means one third of the brain power of Lulav will be out of this. They call it an AI factory. So just, things to think about. That's where the world is going, and we need to be able to adapt and to know what the new technology will bring and how it's going to change our lives. So, and then of course, in a couple of weeks I'll be going to Hawaii. Invest in the Pacific. So they're having an investment conference for the Pacific in Hawaii in a couple of weeks. So, by konteal, manasong mo ba sura mo? Wadi announce
so lang president ngito tawal mo ra adra bela mo kami adra media. President ngara sel tara trip per kawal amlora Hawaii. Yagam lomitra adra tripler sel tripler. Mang Sir Omer damle ada du magimla communicate loban tirigel mereda tripler hospital mangarngi hagi arrange ra visit tirel merablur belau tirge mer ara media kita dir mil arsel klol blidal ngara Hawaii ese mokte garngi mo house tirgel tira ku patient tirgel the refer til morsel Hawaii el al time wal gora dirga ka sa low sparingi mauldas so asegad magaray omdoy our patients rigid al mora Hawaii, especially our cancer patients. Instead ra sender til mora wa Taiwan ma mora huriping ma elsewhere. Kamiya ma ungil manengel was kostra cancer treatment tamali missile glow. Etial tripler sel wuktulong lete gid ma tripler the sender our patients rigid al mo get tadalugurul. Mang saygid aswadal take a full advantage ringi mo sa edel send our patients rigidal mo matirgay gidal wara tulul sa gidal tripler hospital gim arrange sa trip til merablur belaw mer wara mo su seortir mergo hopefully mo sa edel lultuir sa gidal wara ngil de leong mo klol patient gidal kirela toera kasino ma al sender til more say mang suada ruli kote sa igidi awal wara mo kota first priority el so mendigel sa el kung do mesra wa mora at Taiwan ma mora igal ku baby rablu agum nasel amal mo sa virgida klo ludaw de president direl on that line ngaringi el altu tawagi mlara zoom lo bengela toktang adrasyabal nga direl expertise ringi field ringi ngara emergency ga emergency doctor o si siul time nga adra endoscopy tirgele guk kaureora toera kasino mae agi mlakongel lokordira belur belau mo ngedra hospital letara gi momda surnya wasetial emergency rigida malospe angeso ongeru en direct la sapel meong sugi del detect toera serra kasino ma at the very early stage mo sapel ngartiang treat. So before they get worse, they'll send them out more outside. Ngala sa pelang artia ko help ringil girel sa igit. Yung kay President senior nga mal klo experience ringil toktang rasyabal. Malakot to kara marigel. Magidirekal mga duringil was ome direkal sa ML train tirigal besel toktang rigid. Mar nurse rigid ma tirigal olang seora in so many other areas. Mal gongel was en soal may. By di mo ko lang artiang al gamang taltay matemel makadharaw ra salary ringi di gamiaman ngay tirgang takay Hindi bela ako mo assume ra talgibra salary ngi and then ako ngaringi sel al adalo lang sa urgid al peace wind. Tirgay ako mo assume ra igel bebir salary igel wuk mo kwa pasal mo ngal sang sete. Mang katamal masan marenga saul gidel sayid. Presidenta di klutal di last week tirgel wuk other sel house yung medical university tirma at Taiwan government na Taiwan matiale 5 hospital aguk play aguk committee lo mangge gimlot TV lo was tamle offer lo lang sa rablur belawal eradicate ra hepatitis C lebelura Taiwan re al time am lamo dia ka hepatitis C ngi tamla eradicate ringi rogir sorry lo lang sa urgid morulia belawal mo first el Pacific Island country el modia ka hepatitis C ringi agi dire ko langit tanges urtil was lakdil sa igid hepatitis B also PL direct mo lang sew so they're agreed to help out on that akuk ngaringia Burnett Institute ti akuk ngara Australia lobanggela kablementra Australia ambassador Australia gidire kuk millimeter tir et kuk ngara blur belawal ne kuk ma-offer ma collaborate lo bentrir le tolong seol girela atwara HIV magray tolong seol blur belaw malu tel bebir ay gele communicable disease ay gel bugoy wiyo rak travelur belaw so mal bato ka opportunity sa presidente ako mesa igay gidel close sa lidra maliwek Australia masyabal marwa Taiwan amal bakarang lilo ng sa orgid makda marenga saul bato ka sa wadal masawad hindi gay gidya bebil tiktilia lastel wa sa Eli finally Eli kadamlo nguwa toktang al mokordira balilyo ng lamorngia full-time resident doctor Rablu Rablilio tiam katratal ko ro lingit ringi finally mlamo sa pedal gut maklim am sura at Rablilio amo ngilar ngil girel sa igide president digay gida sulang
vice dice que no te le diré que no te le mrenga sula la Ira State am pass a resolution el just say no to drugs kada mrenga sulir sel commitment tertir ma dire kala magalurol kire la sa sob klala kal tol kire ang liget kuma te ale kun sa director igeda murgora dimo update tergidra igel longira la drablu igen ngana klep
Akmal sa isela tax refund madingil wasi mutokara da kora mangil imdiri kal atrigil diri kalo mo dong almia soril mo mdangai mensal di mataklil wasi kadam latar ka klat temel rose el refund el wasing mo February 24 ma 25 se Tuesday Wednesday el morning na ka fitera PCC kadiri kan malmrenga sulela presidente ra PCC ma vice president happy belated birthday si il meskida tel modos pe trainga solo spera cafeteria men kora mwila parking ma basyo dire ka de lo ai se lo hace trigel mo expect la refund idam dengel wase sella le pasringi ya wase other belau al low rior salary ram le 15,000 el medio amwa full refund and then also mo kulurior other belau so kora 15,000 clora 15,000 and then nakalang la krador 8,000 yakamlar sel 480 malam sel 6 first 6% na taxem so dal mo taklil wa sel arrak ya rogul refund adi mot mag yo sisil tobdo mang sumaka ngila w turgaw ul mesa checksta bargaw ya do them amle 15,000 merio malubeng dia kalang lak rador 8,000 kamngel waseng ngaringa refund raw February 24 ma 25 ra PCC cafeteria 9 AM el 5 PM ayagi da temel ombros imang sabem el Mersey al sumang guk modi al sabem e kamera gadi mera one stop ro obis ngaringa momade el mengira trigel modi al sil megan yersey mang so dal trigel update el wasek expectra total president 4,600 alada malari fund luldakial sel 15 and under material 15 to 30,000 mang mokmedal dios isu atletele mal di ngod avasyo dio da gel tablong ndi gal na momre gal ra mal dios isu atletele om di melo laba id ngania ko atletele la chum oldoro qraat qadora iserngi dir lo dakir id ngi mai dir qaw ngani gel formal already pre-filled mo di me verify information saying e watchir. And also mangaring idil kura alwi dalu mangarang kusuk dor idil sumakli. Dirigal so dalo ay sangaring itrigel mle apply gel refund le tane donate non profit alo tabni hara tuition. Also kung makawamala refund dirigal mle apply say application ro amla may al malmutre al Friday. Di mo dakir lo bangel sel refund ro ra PCC sel momolang ra PCC cafeteria. And then trigel ko kumle apply gegi del donation non profit alo batamli hara tuition e claim ay gegi del payment se mong the refund tir e dia kal ultimo kortir kal mamla refund ra PCC cafeteria agel application agim review agel refund al top de segi del week al di morning ra officer gidra tax el altamen di ngarang se gegi da so lo ay sel girel sel tax refund al sumania question en sebed longer and then aktirik al mal madengel wasay ngaringa dirik al baby radal ngaringa longi ringi matdirik al tokar mlam gadong al may magdamal mas orang asuli rogol adra kaloreng kadamal malas mal muragel sel gotter adel nding diagal bol uleng mang isak wida o ur malubang mamistiga chigra kadam masawder sel social assistant payment el yes mle 480 emlam mas el mo 600 tala magoteng 600 tala payment. And then gida abodo el top del sel, abodo disperse sel social assistance payment in the one time. Cordio de aquí al rogir, among lo hacen neseb edelo top del monthly, neseb edelo top del quarterly. And the la ragal del top del ni, di regal di moa last year, di one el lump sum el payment 600. Maseng morar ngarang, morar other belau, el kier belau, 60 recruit morbab, naritar, e di galo rior. Ese disbursement dringi they dringi on March 25. March 24, March 25. So exactly 30 days after ngal tax refund. Egida mo maros indica de dir go real gan form rabasyo man dia logo es el motor go click del mutel mes modi. Ndi am dasing adi egida update so February 24, 25 tax refund disbursement PCC cafeteria 9 am el 5 pm o me go ba idir gaw alo ga authorization at some goldur arat. Sulang.
Sulang. Voy a open el hablar más media. Mogirage.
Mr. President, dito blo questions nga awan first kira sel second all blam signing so naman tirtigale adra customs kawasing moringi igigidal bal designated el blue mo require el malaya authorization rabel sisaba o visa first of all seng dakalos pe alla almuringi alo and if andia ke ngaringi a process in place, for example, application forms, malubeng, reviewing process in place, tirgal aloro tali o tirgal aras ilos pering alubeng ngora. I mean, how is that going to be operationalized? Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Tiam kata tala ngaringi, dia kalau require alla. It's actually been ongoing. Matkira dara Bangladesh currently they are in Myanmar. So this just expands the list. Man magtaklil ng nari agora nimla klil wasi Africa magara. Tiya dimle Africa. So magada make sure ng ari list regel el blur Africa le tiya di tukol mo regel airline. Kita dega we don't have any requirements el meso is barabal wada mo. This now operationalized that make it clear mo. Betra airline mdegal mo with el sender adal me kita the finer tilo sa kung sender adal me dim lagi magangiri. So this makes it very clear.
Just kind of a follow up on that. So for example, Awaya Vanuatu.
Yes.
So if they sorry el merbelao nganya let's say nganya game merbelao matame they have to nganya site tel boringi alo to communicate tel mora taang malagal application form ang they will only know sila lo mara ticket tir account.
Yeah, so by March 30 and we have to come up with a process. right now, process usually to the Mulus el May, and they get requests either from Officer of President or a waiver tier. So, malungila example, Vanuatu lang tabebi rigid. Tadra Pacific nga mo tangara list. Problem Vanuatu amle trabato el passport, mura degal adra Vanuatu. Europe almost tadiri kam laban passport tira. I mean it's a problem. That's why ang gira they're pretty clear. So they're welcome to come, but we need to make sure that they kamara adra Vanuatu. In our definition of Vanuatu, hindi kaladan criminal look milara passport ngira Vanuatu ilo lasam meso iso I think so that's what we're trying to prevent. Yeah. Sula na uligar.
Second follow-up question, President. I know Marcel meeting at World Mining Authority South America, mlaring tipsy mining. As conference anywhere last year.
ISA.
ISA, that's the
Yes, International Seabed Mining Authority. Yeah.
too many acronyms.
International Seabed Authority. Tiga nga Jamaica.
I see. Dire mal man vocal regel kuk sige del wase med the moratorium
I see.
for a while do subot yang endi do Mr. Ilang yung mal active aurior el gire la tipsy mining activity mura kwa masaybal. Mangara ko ra what's your take on that?
Yeah, the mga sulala. Of course, abelang Fiji le first launcher cell longit el mo marob omis rabartakla. El al time kadam lamo ogodey ma atelol mel. I say 36 el blue rablu laf. Magadriga kadata. Yed el mudur yid. Di unfortunately, America la degal partner segi del moratorium, el blura, ayga del American samo makoma under blura America. That's the unfortunate part. America la actually degal partner sel International Seabed Authority tiga degal signer sel on class. Kada now more than ever, we need to be together, and that's why. Important tell CAP, pre-CAP, Minnesota CAP Alberta Pacific. And the issues we need to bring them out. And one of the issues that we have is the deep sea is a carbon sink. So protecting the oceans is important not only for the Pacific but for the planet. I'm close to tell these are things. But even in the Pacific, of course, ang division, ng abalu, sorry, mangis. So. Kada milasam el tral mungo del mo rungo la tinga da Pacific. The right now I get 14 el independent el blue 11 no ase le dorgodia do 3 ase digamos som mangis. We also have to get together as a Pacific ase gidroga con elo ase moratorium. And I think that's it's an ongoing discussion. We brought it up at PIF. We've had dialogue. Of course, tell office Pacific Ocean Commissioner. That's one of their mandates. Agiril, I say, Victor, come to a consensus. At least the kanyelo as a moratorium until the bulungil musu. The kadame sa bodong isra bartak lang affecta tuna, affecta ujira, can affect the whole ecosystem. El deal carbon released, but also our economy gida dependent when it comes to fishing. Mark Lolo mga damara Pacific, el depende niya gida other Pacific mo. So, nagira del Mississippi advocate, kadamara nga sula governor akwam governor sa iba letiga dirigal observer PIF. So their voice is important. Associate members, so their voice is important, and we need to support them. So, Sula.
Sula, thank you. That's all.
Mr. Tao, two question na kaldire. First question na kamura Vice Presidente Ministra Head. Malungil legal ay silgirel esel toktang sa Elmer Belong al toktang rasyabal. Matial possible partnership with Tripler means ila atal patient surveillance more say. Atigiri ka sa tal mura Tripler ang asab ila veterans so dire mo include their sale agreement tal asab arirel mo malaya healthcare benefits or tier say.
Se tripler se hospital ar soldado. Oo, so I'm sorry, ang diak sal mal sa pegal mal dulia directal and sel girel tilang di kumda sang la diak at pomer tire presidente.
So, cell program tripler, of course, this has been going on for a long time. Cell mlengal sang seda deka blit. Hindi kare blit. Maulik at mela raklol blay. The processor tripler toktangar belaw. Agir refer a case irgid mortir. Cell refer a case in mortir. Tira decide rase accepting India. Cell accepting et pera tiget ringel patient. El mora Hawaii, el mora gurul. So, question is veterans and Ilya. Yes, of course. At suma toktang rigida referring ilmo, and then they can go into that program. Of course, as ilmo e kergal bleed ang arseling. Yeah. The other belong. Yes.
Oy, di sele laukok suom ta vet talakok ngania special benefit la direct lo la ringi so sa dia.
Oh.
I'm sure la direct guk tarara sa loyak ni Morsel Hospital.
And I think that's a good point, Vice Rosa. Tigel veterans, allowing, especially sa labora, get more referral, engal toktangal, fill out application should put in that notation o singa veteran. Sila direct help para.
Paisa, malungil.
And that's something sila may trigger de modo durtil gire.
Paisa.
Yeah. Of course, kita direct try fight together our veterans, ro sang gire may full benefits na motela legislation mga randi. Yeah. Hopefully we'll get there, but this is a good avenue. Sula.
Next question nga kamura Minister Obiang. So kaldi ask masangari nga update ra meeting ra kami ma leadership rang rar dal girel sa Takmore construction will start without state permits.
Yang sulang kamalungila intelligence ra ka community. Oy. Igidir ko lu meeting ra kasus a meeting lo man trira leadership ra ngara malmon last meeting ra mam lo ngerul meeting amle kasus ngaringe yel ko klom daswa leadership ma on tril girel tial project tal mora all mang ngaringe ko on tril lusel mergid mga duldurok le serial kuk mara a military air force tira o ngara aratial project ra all melal time me kadang wadongi la yel kuk henzir alwasing ngara ko kul de swir kire la yel logit tel lergit o kiuki de mortir na leadership ra all may gigi ako ra marare lang din de hans vegal sera aditail ra ayel babalik nga la leadership ng arar kautel ko ra ba ungila communication na kaumatir mo sabay man ako ra detailer tir gigida Vice President tel dire kal kim kaukle da mar lauro ra tiang malangari ako soldo ele
tax refund tial child subsidy ngaring yakura osangyul gora mo mga mokla direct deposit rather tial di persa check o comment
Sulla raghe Jennifer da til amra lungil luldas infatti qada urur sikrolel wasi wa beklurel la obis ra taxo sem radrelin mobiatarat si la service el mred del bon efficiente et la guida comme dans mal che guida mal mo efficiente particularmente sa mal de mal na mo smart tial wasi te dingar ger magere ngi so isba retirement so in fact Atara do urior ngir elang gitam nora open procurement ra special system ra tax mga mes ngil wasing sebel diri kan motra provide ra silve tengel en sebel put maklia wa direct deposit men sebel da diri kal pasegel rogul sebel lo dakta di bol direct deposit mangarnya urior mra hopefully by next year they will improve atletele la dos mal soma melo mesam diri ra adam dik ngil wasing at umaring tira pa mortal me malay morabang sulang
Martial. Sel nari akan friends sel tiang matamal ulwai sarau. Tirgem la launch sel universal moda program tir. Universal benefit el morar beklat. Di tirge boy la launch stable coin tir. Matiga sel release algon dito bada den wara ada namre udu del mo. Ngani gero kumle plan lagi dan mulai game kada qadir go uro rin diri kada stop ndi kada kaya sew gid ma adro albi lagi da para advancement el sed el mru undo sang alam ra kaya rogul audit manganam namasya del move forward.
President Kamle mentioned Cell Executive Order 498 Cell establish a working group ra tora darax. Yakume senta malditirgal adalom teera igal of course governor speakers Silvela Rubugul Belaw Olbil ma. Hindi ka ko raw daswel sabel mo aguk nguwa adal di hutsul adal nga rabalul mo part tial working group committee akora di
So tial working group pa mal magtakrilo ase tigawal di lo mura meeting and ditemo invite our back other iglesia other we need to make it as big and comprehensive as possible tigawal di lo mura urior they can bring as many people makaluro get as possible. So we lang represent the bragi karela lola all kinds. Adam.
El asel guk executive order 499 el legal balu el giril ma pre-clearance seng mo sa parira igal balu mornya website talaboringin sa il apply online
Yes, sea goal rin.
mang sa pedal ko ro omes serngira o ingrangin sa el mom kat mokpel say gidan
March story. Goal rin March story
March
mo
30. Wow. Okay. Yadi lastel garige daitorio akoro onesera immigration officer ngatyan Minister of Justice mang katoko ring selwa se self position ra director ra immigration na kora open kora swat logel wase laang anya atel blam appointer ngi atang seng dir ka
So just sulang Jen. So just to clarify, the Bureau of Customs and Immigrations falls under the Ministry of Finance. So technically, ang SLC at makalawin with Justice Rigel security matters. So with that, I give it over to the President.
Diang mal may say na mo yan to the announcement de del higher up. So sulang na ngari acting. So acting Mr. Bolton acting Chief of Immigration, acting Director lang Cholin. Spesong.
Ya pal di lastel garige daitorio katagil makli akora luula tokora tourism minister to el girel other bela o makala ert the batokal locally owned businesses anamo di al sabri lol tagartigal local boat operators le selbora bolo screener tire minister olgaril olgo mal lamo batokar positive rather especially meth mang akureng sertir manggora di swakalo gere minister matul wase ngarnya o sengil goran mutan mo o meser se wase mo sabil allow especially togunyar atara huripingal mo apply galurior lelgong mal ay gayidel betokol skogi mal namo cloth tourism ending mal namo ngosong sar boat operators because namo dia permit tir el sabiin malmol malom let positive radarax masegora di suatal sulang
Kada mo alaw ada mo blue
Oo.
lombal. El al timing sa BL di tahara tal telayan se di imran morba bray bakarak. Menggira dal mo modadur adar olbi modadur ada senet mo amendra la al mo alaw ni. At the moment
minister garela celebrase ngomda sosella rela prevent trigger del har adrango de blue ndia mal open se mal mo adrango de blue ndingira mal haro ra fi $4,000 second mo 2000 mo 3000
I sure ada seguir incremental.
engi ada kal makitel to koy selfie leng mga lior adar bela mo chumo siya mo har adar bela eselung license adar bela operator elam namo on average $100 ade alba so ay se amle moktek selfie ada gel di morar operator ma ay rogul employer ka pa adrango de blul ma dollar tir di se example ra how ndegal el simer but you have to pay so
O kapay misula ko mlam
It's allowable.
Oh, okay. Leng yung sinder tira ala omda society adir ka magul makapay misulan mlam katakli. Oo.
Seguir
Sulang.
1,000.
yeah problem
Jen, so on the end, a little bit of something to that discussion. Mang segi dalla, mang di nga hadira kalbuk nangital wasay Again, lo tutel, if any, I'm sure there is. O tutel requirements ra ensuring a drug-free operator. Again, whether again giniremurtra al sila whatever unit ra MHRCTD, ma rerelo trira our tour operators, ma other agencies. The CC, I know there are compliance rules in place. So while the law til alknula law allow at taang and the nga existing laula operating boats and vessels pertaining to tourists and boat for hires and other situations hindi na boring ya dam sisi lo taw tagay.
dahil nga niya BOT nga water safety nga transportation ma umra la se mo ko ministra klo to tere lingira do da kaige era la mo require the we need to think about it de gadil o magala air o magala any like heavy equipment and bus we probably need to require drug testing alam rigala that's what they do those people in those kind of jobs or tagararada mga so these are things that we need to my life jacket. Okay.
Tourists are required, hindi atal barang ayangan na dekal required.
Siya na. Okay. I just want to clarify, mang sila allow foreigners mo sabihin mo boat drivers sem na mo ngi hindi gil PFI amina
Mga nga adros peri. Hindi aksel, hindi mo nakaldalya Jennifer, a concern about operators every year ang mas. First year ang 1,000, and next year ang mas, di mas.
okay tiyang apply mo ra taxi drivers
No, simply specifically more about a taxi is reserved mo other bela.
adiga more other below
Mas kung mga niya taxi mo meser ngil atang other blue ko wais.
that's a question
Mamamlarulia taxi giblam list tiger rogul registered. Mga niya siya singer til over airport lang. Mga niya siya singer tir ma number tir ma then whatever color tir.
okay sulak
Kamle mitrangele ambassador India, Jane.
Yes, Sula.
Yes. Ngayon, pepira other belan lamura gurura India. Ito ay sulwase tialbot kertira ortho. Adim lakal pol taltela la aral. Akora wonder lo asing laas namra la Vice President makaratas misi isel dalwil lo panggela India po tol durokars me el morsey.
Sulang may siya abay sa miralang nga meeting ang director nila lang mumlora meeting di sulang reminder gid sel uktalwil gid ma India Asera doral me alakra huri ping amna tele the mitra ambassador India mang one of the discussions of course increase ra smell the sender mora huri ping esel wil mladuba of course amna misel direct flight ra Manila mora India there's no question lo sa guru la wil it seems to be very reasonable adaria de stobra guru so the increase adiregal القار الدولار إنديا ما ديري التوختان را إنديا المربلال بايورر ألسلا بيلاو I think كده تدي observation بتوغر نرى شينكون الميل توختان إميجا يريفر هذا المرة أشينكون توغر هوريبين مي ريفر ما هوريبين I think about توغر Indian doctors نرى بلا تمنا لها capability إنديا مبيو ترتيرا سندرا المرة India I think that's what we need. So, giral comprehensive, but marklote alam ngar. And then lastly, the shell was I know, kama makatatalo sa cell victims center giral ambassador India say, kama malmul el support agidimir kamil finalize ra plan minister ng adik badong mumrege. Mga instruction ang mumul. Right.
Yeah, just a quick update on the victim shelter. So historically, that was an initiative that was taken up by former Vice President Udo Sangabao and also as Vice President, as Minister of Justice. So we picked up on that work. I'm happy to note there was with the original design, the Ministry of Justice was able to work with an established working group for Family Protection Act, consists of members of Judiciary, Hospital, Attorney General's Office, the Police, and other agencies. A request to incorporate the other structural components or say original design that would work to better facilitate ramo purpose or cell shelter. So mla approved, mla mura CIP approved. The final design is ready to be sent to India to include a provision ra police and fire substation at the site that will provide security for the facility as well as already accessible facility kung nga sige dal area na for first response. So kada man nga sulila government ra India President Whipsel will prioritize ra aringil ra exist as Minister of Justice. So we've been working hard with the Minister of Health and Human Services also, who we are looking at the wasentira mo ngara operations or cell facility. Okay. So
قاضي a little bit of history say originally le ultimo the designator niya amna bitara sel blabilis dice ora mal ngosal marina dom ko ora blarim tamra sula government rairai el baygiri el mesquite seguid el bashol ngal bitar tel dispensary rairai mga lang dispensary victim shelter substation wala di ulda rogon ngal sel el bitara get center mo cada nombre, las dictos es el tumura tora draxe, gidam le sendra la almora olvira galula na motarra Marcel dodoro klilmon and one of the things le so del specie sel sumado urior el pasetibra draxe bon bregalo urior still the mir sella sel version aseneta mal watagram le water down yok mal mo concern rights rarada if we're going to be tough on drugs, we have to be tough on drugs and get the consistent. Hold people accountable. Same thing, same issue. We have to hold them accountable. And maybe if we're tough on it, if you cannot find a job because of hospe, and namo nulan mo hospe. So lang. Namuda ka question. Malway se roman sulang ara no si ilmem kadok military press conference igi dela edik mutial teal e bo urang asulir trial tiramri loro rabe kalsils e to gobet el border tirel al sils to gobet el tanjo birtir mangaria Ashley Adalbay ngara Customs, ingari Eunice Agiwo, ay taro. Ngangara Domestic Affairs, Director of Domestic Affairs, ma Limansky Palau, ngamal dia banggi karape kalsil ngangara security, executive security, ngara MOJ, diri ngari Desiree Ellis, ngangara MHHS, ngara Bureau of Public Health, ma Motel Brownie, ngara National Weather Service. Happy birthday mo kami Rogoy, donitra ruwak Dios mo kaltangat kami, mo kaltangat travelwat. Ikaw orang kaltangat Jennifer nga pastor masik tadi nga artiamal ilungil close robang no